Hey, what's going on? My name is Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and you're listening to the Patterns of Possibility podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you replace harmful patterns with new possibilities. In each episode, we'll explore topics that inspire you to be yourself, live your truth, and make lasting connections. In this episode, we're going to talk about what they said. What you say? What you say? What did I hear? What I thought I heard? Well, I wonder, did you hear what you thought you heard? What did you hear? Sometimes we hear things and we react to it, we misinterpret, or we interpret in ways that others didn't mean. So impact versus intention is something I talked about quite a bit. But here today, I want to talk about how we can find ourselves in situations where we heard something and we reacted to it, but we didn't hear exactly what the words were that they said. What you say now? Are you ready? Let's go. All right. How many of you have been misinterpreted? Raise your hand. I can see you. Raise your hand. Go ahead. How many of you have heard something that wasn't said? You go ahead and keep your hands up, because it happens both ways. We say things, people hear something else, or they say something to us and we hear something else. We're reacting, they're reacting based on what they believe about the experience that they've had with us, based on what they believe that the words said were, based on the tone, based on our facial expression, based on some other body language. They react to that along with the words, based on their own personal experiences, their beliefs, whatever have happened to them, whatever had happened to them. In that moment, you have said the right combination of words, displayed the right gestures to invoke a feeling. Poof, there it is, the feeling. Wow, there's feeling. And they're yelling at you, or they're sad, or they're upset, or they're afraid, whatever. They're having a feeling. And you're like, where does that come from? What? That wasn't the thing that I expected to happen when I said those words. All I said was, you look beautiful today. And they start crying. Ooh, no. What? Did you hear what I said? Did you? What are those tears of joy or sadness, or are you afraid? What's going on here? And it leaves the huge disconnection, creates a huge disconnection between you, the speaker, who's trying to deliver a message, perhaps just letting them know how joyful it is to see them looking good, feeling good. And then all of a sudden now they're crying. Oops, you didn't mean to have that impact on them. And them, whatever's going on with them, they're having a good day or having some kind of day, maybe a sad day, and you say something to them. It reminds them of an experience they had, and they just start crying. It's like, oh man, this is the worst. Somebody said this to me before and it really didn't mean it. And you just reminded me of that moment, because they're feeling insecure. Who knows? But what was said? What was said? Who said what? In that situation, you might be like, well, should I apologize? I didn't do anything wrong. I just complimented, right? You just complimented. You were saying something to them and hoping that they would receive it in a different way. Hoping they receive it with open arms and excitement. And that just didn't happen. And then, I bet they were caught off guard by their own feelings. You know what I don't think gets talked about a whole lot is the person who is going through this emotional sandstorm. I want to talk to you because I've been there, been on both sides all the time. I think all of us have been on these sides, but it kind of catches you off guard. And you're like, I don't even know why I'm feeling this way. We zoom into this particular reaction or this particular kind of emotional takeover when it comes to anger. We're like, I don't know why I'm so angry, but I don't know why I'm so sad. I don't know why I'm so defensive. I don't know why I'm so afraid. They said words to me that didn't seem like it. I don't know what they said, but I'm feeling something. I want to help you ground yourself. Get back to being in the reality that you are both in. And when I mean reality that you're in both in, I mean the understanding of how each person felt that statement must have or could have landed, was supposed to land it, the desired impact for both parties. Because you were surprised, just as much as surprised as that statement, you're beautiful or you look beautiful today. You were surprised about how you've been impacted too. And that person who shared it with you were surprised. The person who shared it with you was surprised that you were impacted in that way too. So you're both surprised. You're like, what is this? What is this reality? Where are we when these words do so much damage or they impact you so much? Like neither one of you know. So when I imagine this scenario happening, I imagine it as if you were in a sandstorm. You're in a sandstorm and they said the words and all of a sudden a storm comes up and you're affected. Your eyes are hurting from the sand. Your nose is stuffed up. You can't see. You can't think. You're getting pelted by little bits of sand. It's itchy. It's uncomfortable. You can't breathe. You can't hear anything but the swirling sand. It is taking you over. That's your emotion. It's taking you over and you can't do anything but try to figure out where you are. Up is down and down is up. You can't see. You're overwhelmed. This is what I imagine happens when you enter that state. And you're all alone. There's nothing else around you. You're just batting and trying to figure out how to get out of this space. And doing the best that you can to get out of this space where it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And you don't know where. You don't know why. What's going on. When that emotion remains, that intense emotion comes from nowhere. We don't know what it is or why. You can easily replace this example too, if you're having trouble imagining it, with being defensive. Somebody says something to you and you're defensive instead of crying. So all of a sudden you're like, I just got to get it away from me. I got to push it away. It's just too much. And you lose sight of what caused this in the first place to get the sandstorm to go away. You bat your arms, but it's not doing anything. They're little bits of sand. You're not able to protect yourself in any way. And you don't even know what came on, what happened. I want you to anchor yourself with this tool. Just imagine yourself in this sandstorm. I want you to anchor yourself before you get blown away with that emotion. Go back to what they said. That's all. Just go back to what they said. What did they say? What were the words that were said? Because there's a little gap in between what they say and what we hear and how we feel about what we hear. Right? So there's a gap. There's space in between what they said, what we hear, and what we feel about what they said. So knowing that, we want to get back to the intention of what they said. We want to get back to the intention. Oh, Lee, what are you talking about? You're always saying impact over intention. Okay. Definitely impact over intention. But right now, we don't even know what the impact came from. We need to go figure that out. We don't even know why we're upset. We don't even know why we were impacted that way. So we got to go up a level. We got to up to the words that they said. So I want you to anchor yourself in what the actual words were. The next time you find yourself in a situation like this where you feel like you might be reacting, you want to go back to what they said. And you want to make sure that you say it verbatim. Say it, write it down if you're reflecting on it. Write it down verbatim. This is because the closer you are to their words, the further you are away from your own reaction. The closer you are to their words, the further you are away from this sandstorm of emotion that's taking you over. You don't even know how you got there. Go back to the start. What did they say? Not your words. Not your words. Because there's a gap in between what they said, what you heard, and what you felt about what you heard. Right? So go back to the very beginning and anchor yourself in what did they say? And if you have trouble remembering what they said, then you're deep in it. Dismiss completely. They don't even exist to you. Their words didn't even mean too much before you went into that space. They didn't have to do much. You even know what they did. You wouldn't even be able to ask for change in the future if you had no idea what they said. So it's important to go back to what they said, verbatim, as close as you can get to that. So that's one step. It's going to pull you out of this reaction. And the next step is to think about what you heard. Usually what happens is that when you get to what they said, you get to as close to it as possible. You know that it has nothing to do with you. You just attached yourself to their words and made it something because you heard something different and you felt something by what you heard. That's usually what happens. And you won't have this intense feeling of emotion behind you because you know that it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. It's all them. They wanted to tell you that you look beautiful for their own gratification, in the hopes that perhaps they would impact you with a smile, that you'd smile. And that didn't happen. Everybody was surprised. You cried. What? I don't know. They wanted to tell you about an issue that they saw in the work that you did. And so they did, but you were feeling pretty insecure and defensive that day, so you exploded. Or you went into this sandstorm of emotion where you couldn't see what was up, what was down, and you were defending yourself, or you were angry at them. But what did you hear? Create space in between what they said, what you heard, and how you felt about what you heard. If you do that, you'll start understanding more about yourself, what triggers you, and you'll be able to see other people a lot clearer, have better communication, and better connections. The Social Connection Summit is happening September 25th and September 26th. This 2-day summit is going to change your professional relationships. You don't want to miss it. Get your tickets at patternsofpossibility.com/events. I'll see you there. The number one reason people come to seek my help is not because they're struggling with relationships. It's something much deeper. They're really struggling to trust. They honestly believe that there's no one around that they can trust. And with good reason. They've been burned so many times. They've opened up to the wrong person. You see, close relationships require that you put your trust in someone. And trust requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is scary because, of course, you could get hurt. I get it. And I found that there's an art and a science to discovering who to trust. So to help you be vulnerable with less risk, I've developed a 3-step action plan to discover who deserves your trust. It's called strategic vulnerability. Strategic vulnerability has personally kept dozens of untrustworthy people at a safe distance from me, and I'm sure it will work for you too. If you'd like to learn more about how to apply this 3-step action plan to your life, let's have a friendly conversation. Go to patternsofpossibility.com to book your conversation today. Now it's time for your listener letters. If you'd like me to give you actionable steps to create more meaningful relationships with something that's happening with you in your life, you can write me at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com and I might read it here on the show. How to deal with friends that are moving on with their lives. I'm in my late 20s and I'm a female. A lot of my female friends that I've known since I were 11 are now in long-term relationships and either married or very much getting there. Right now I'm single and I don't know whether I'll meet someone anytime soon. I'm trying to take my mind off it and be grateful for my friends who are incredibly important people in my life. But they're starting to move on and spend more time with their husbands, family, and so on. How do I deal with the fact that I'm no longer a priority for them? Not to say we're never hanging out, but it's a lot more rare than it used to be. I just feel incredibly lonely on both the romantic and friendship front. I want to tell my friends about how I feel, but I also don't want to seem like I'm blaming them for what I guess is a natural shift in priorities as we grow up. What do I do? Well, this is an easy one. I think you can just stalk them and show up more often than not. Remind them of the value that you bring to them. Show up at their house. Keep texting them. Call them as many times as you possibly can until they remember the value that you bring. That's what you do. That's how you know. I said all that with a straight face too. This is really incredibly tough because we all change and we all have different life experiences. As we get older, we have more life experiences, and if we don't have similar experiences as we continue to grow, then we grow apart. It's natural that we gravitate towards those people who understand how we feel about our life experiences, and you realize that it's happening and it's painful because we realize we have to let go of what we've had before. It just can't stay the same. And I see that you want to be grateful, and it seems like you are grateful for the friends that you have. It's just separating from them, and it's not even a permanent separation like cut off, but you're noticing that you have more time to yourself. You have more time. That's how I want to think about it, and that's how I wonder if you would think about it this way too, that you have more time to yourself to get to learn more about who you are and what you're looking for. You know, sometimes when people get into relationships, they forget themselves. They forget the things that are important and interesting to them as individuals, and they latch on to the dreams and ambitions of the other person, or the health of the relationship, or for the sake of their children and things like that. But you have this opportunity to start learning more about what's important and interesting to you. Because it can happen in friendships too. We latch on to those people who we used to hang out with, or we hang out with, and we may not even know ourselves. We may not even realize how much we've changed or how much we've grown or tried new and different things, because it's always been what the friend group wants. It's always been in the direction of the group think. But now you're an individual, and this is an excellent opportunity to not feel lonely, but to discover yourself. And just for the sake of, definition and clarity, when I think about being alone, I think about that you being physically alone, like there is nobody else around. And lonely is a different thing. Lonely really means that you believe that there's nobody in the world who understands how you feel about your experience. It means that there's nobody out there who understands how you feel about your experience, what you're doing right now. And look at all your friends, and they don't understand what it looks like to be single because they're in long-term relationships or they're married. They don't get it. And you look at them and you're like, you don't know what it's like. Dang, it used to be different. It was something else. They don't know. But it's a time for you to discover that there are more people out there who understand how you feel about being alone, romantically and on a friendship front. It's important that you recognize what's important and interesting to you. So if you want to move on from this relationship, or you want to move on and feel more connected to other people, you really have to connect to yourself. And connecting with yourself means discovering your joy and your excitement, what's fun and what's interesting to you. I imagine like a whole runway had opened up for you, a whole clearing had opened up, and you can go anywhere and do anything to your heart's desire, because you don't have anything to hold you back. You don't have to look to anyone and say, hey, do you want to do this with me? You are just with yourself. So what I recommend, if you want to connect with other people, heal the loneliness within you, it's discovering that your joys, your excitements, whatever's fun to you, go discover that. That's the next step when you're feeling lonely. So you want to discover more about yourself. So go discover, go do things, go try new things, go have different experiences, go talk to different people, but not for the sake of creating a friendship. We never do that. We're not discovering ourselves and trying to connect with people at the same time. We're discovering ourselves and allowing people to gravitate to the joy that we experience when we start discovering ourselves. That's what it looks like to connect with new people. That's what it looks like to get into a romantic relationship or a friendship. When you have a sense of self, people are attracted to that. People are attracted to the certainty that you feel when you are joyful. When you're doing something that's fun to you and you know it and it feels good to you, people are attracted to that. They love that. They want to see what that's about. And especially those people who've already found it themselves. You're going to create the most healthy relationship dynamics when you do that, because they're not relying on you to provide joy for them. They've already found it and they're bringing it to share with you. The same for you. You're not relying on anybody to create joy for you. You've already found it and you want to share it with somebody. That's how you attract people. That's how you'll feel less lonely. That's how you'll enjoy the rest of your life until you find the next experience that's going to take you in a different direction. But that's a step right there. So I want to wish you much luck, because this is really hard. It seems like you all liked each other. You all supported each other. And I know it's just a few lines of text, but it seems like there was no hard feelings. It wasn't the normal friendship breakup where things have just gone awry. It wasn't that. Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, share with someone who you think could benefit from this information, and follow me on social media. You can find me at Patterns of Possibility on all social media, and I go live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can catch me and learn more about these social connections and interact with other people who are looking for the meaningful connections, who share the same kind of stories, and be in community. And don't forget to sign up for my newsletter at patternsofpossibility.com, where you will get actionable steps delivered to your mailbox every week. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, take care.